Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Aren't you excited to be here? Yes. I think you have probably been moved by what you have seen on screen. I want to thank our students. But first, let me say, my name is Jan Barker Alexander. I'm an Associate Dean of Students and Director of the Black Community Services Center, which has been called the Black House affectionately for the last 45 years. The Black House and the program in African and African American Studies, this year we are turning 45, so that deserves a round of applause. So Ferguson, America's movement for racial justice. That is our program tonight. I stand before you on behalf of the program in African American Studies, the Black Community Services Center, the Institute for the Diversity in the Arts, the NAACP Student Organization, and the Black Student Union. But our co-sponsors, it could not have happened without them as well. I would like to thank Urban Studies, Residential Education, Ujima House, and the Black Graduate Student Association. So let's give them all a round of applause as well. So Stanford University, Palm Drive, palm trees, beautiful weather. One might think that our students are oblivious to what's happening in Ferguson. And some of them are. But there are many who are not. So what's been happening on this campus since week one? Hands Up, Don't Shoot. How to think of activism as a lifestyle in the Black Community Services Center. Black Plaza, which we all know as an event, at least students do. It's a fun event. It's a community building event with Popeyes, of course, because that helps build community. But it's an event that usually has that type of feel. This year, and you will see students walking around here now, the shirts were much more political, and it says, survival is political, with hands up on the back of the shirt. Students also did a social media campaign that you saw on the screen. But they also passed out cards at Black Plaza and in dorms. Here are some names that you need to know. Eleanor Bumpers, 1984, shot unarmed. Kamani Gray, 2013, shot unarmed. Ayanna Jones, 2010, shot unarmed. Osamane Zongo, shot unarmed in 2003, and the list goes on and on, creating awareness that this is not new in Ferguson, but this is a continuum of people being shot unarmed. And today, students demonstrated what we call a disruptive demonstration in what we call the Circle of Death, which is where all the bicycles meet and try to get around each other. There are a lot of accidents that may happen there, but it's where there's a high traffic area. And understand, to disrupt people's day. And from what I can understand on Yik Yak, which is a, what is it called again? Yik Yak, right? A platform on social media, there were a number of students that complained about their day being disrupted at the Circle of Death. So to all the students who stood out there for 4.5 hours, symbolic of how long Michael Brown's body laid in Ferguson, I applaud you because you did upset the upset today. So unfairly, apathy is being assigned to this generation. We all had it when we were in school. There were always apathetic people. But what you will learn tonight is that young people are pushing this movement in Ferguson. But pushing for what? So this summer after Ferguson, my son Hudson, who is 14 years old, we were having a conversation about Jordan Davis, about Trayvon Martin, and now about Michael Brown. And he was drinking a Sprite, which is, you know, in a clear green bottle. And he says to me, he says, you know, Mom, low key, I drink Sprite because I know it won't get mistaken for a gun like a Coke will. Be that mother who heard this come out of her 14-year-old's mouth, that he's thinking about just drinking a soda, but how that could possibly get him killed, unarmed. So when we ask the question, what are they pushing for? They are pushing that we won't have to accept the status quo, that we won't normalize that type of conversation. And I'm going to end right now with a quote on these handbills that had all of these people who had been shot unarmed. And it reads, "We refuse to be complacent when the sting of injustice reminds us that our lives are threatened daily. We resist the unlawful racial profiling of our community members, and we persist in our journey to thrive. Through the lens of hope, we consciously commit ourselves to the fight against police brutality, mass incarceration, and the racial hysteria that continues to permeate America. Let us lift each other high enough to help our wounds recover, one footstep, one soul, and one leap of faith at a time." That quote is from Jessica Reed, class of 2015, and it is appropriate that we end with that as I call our students to perform something special for our panelists. Thank you.
I looked to Mike Brown's picture and saw my own face. Tall, wide, male, black.
Check.
So I'm a criminal, I guess, even though I'm too stressed by my test to be robbing. But now I'm here sobbing because one of my older mentors turned to me and said, "You see that? He's a big dude." The thing is, people always had me in the same view. Plus, I'm 21. As far as police are concerned, I'm already grown. I don't have a future as a criminal. I have a future as a fat corpse with a darker hue. I cried like I did when I was a child. Aware of my own mortality, I heaved but couldn't catch that breath. Like I was finally hearing my grandmother, Miss Mabel, say, "It's too cold, you'll catch your death." Hands up, I got a gun. Hands down, they'll imagine one. I stand up, I'm a monster. I stand down, I'm a monster. I fall. I am nothing. I shut my eyes trying to trample out the light. I wish that the day never turned to night. I wish that we never got hungry for sweets, that it never rained, that these hoodies weren't made from the softest fleece, that our cars never broke down, that they couldn't find our windows or our doors or our towns, that we didn't play with toys, that our boys could really actually truly be boys, that people were around us and didn't get annoyed because all these things seem to keep getting us killed. I'm paralyzed, I'm on my knees. I close my eyes and count to 3, wishing I could actually be a sheep, because then to them, I would be worth something.
I wish I could count sheep instead of Black lives lost when I can't sleep. He could have been my brother, my uncle, or my son. These words echo in my ears like the firing of a gun, but I rarely hear she could have been my sister, my daughter, or my auntie. I mean, Renisha McBride was only 19. She could have been me. I fear Black women being nullified in another conversation. Our voices drowned and double marginalized degradation. Walking while woman and being shaded by Blackness. At least 6 raped in Oklahoma, but I don't see any mattress. Hoodies and national TV for Trayvon, but Miriam Carey came up short. They fired 17 at her unarmed body, and 5 pierced the autopsy report. Black women may not be the main targets of police brutality, but we are definitely the victims of the larger war on Black humanity. What scares me more than my life being taken away in an instant is the instant evanescence of the instance of my existence. President Obama is my brother's keeper.
But what about me and my sisters?
My sisters who are forcefully sterilized in prisons, their tubes tied by eugenic twisters. My sisters who are the fastest growing prison population. My trans sisters who face the most incarceration, locked in gendered cells or thrown away in isolation. Within the oppressed, there can still be oppression. Don't the transgressed often replicate transgression? When we are marginalized in our own brother's marginal eyes, the intersections are cut, signals stopped, and we are paralyzed. Why must we validate our humanity to those who do the same perpetually? We must all hang together, or assuredly we will all hang separately.
This is me fighting millennial race battles as if I've been hung already.
as if pressing words out one already noose neck among others, black bodies conquered but undivided. This is me channeling visions from trees, though still on ground alive. This is me, black, human and imperfect, complex, pining for a simple revolution, for hashtag solidarity, for politics as convenient as apolitics, for the revolution supposedly in my DNA anyway, right? Like, I mean, you know, I'm not apolitical, fam. I do care, I'm just paralyzed. And what really is black paralysis? Like, it ain't united in death while divided in life. It ain't waiting every 28 hours to see who else cares. It ain't thinking Henry Louis Gates was more impervious to arrest than Oscar Grant, let alone that 1 million YouTube views made Oscar Grant's death exceptional or respectable. It ain't black respectability at all. It ain't saying, thank goodness I'm only half black at the sight of black protests. It ain't yelling all black lives matter while choking to say that they matter equally. I mean, what is black paralysis? It's all these contradictions unnerving your black body. It's a body of black bodies still in revolution, still as hanging, conquered, and divided, still as feeling like dying by a bullet wouldn't hurt more than living in the descent of that bullet's victims. Paralyzed. I am paralyzed, but I am alive, and I don't want to channel visions from trees anymore. So I ask us, what is black solidarity?
Are we still asking?
Still asking why it always has to be about race. When some people heard about the neighborhood turned hunting ground, the word black sat on their lips like plaque on unbrushed teeth, and they'd do anything to floss your story out of their mouths. But our sobs were not made to be auto-tuned. This black is not a filth you can scrub from conversations. We will not cling to the red, white, and blue so long as the blue and white paint our streets red. They will ask you to see past your skin as if you had that privilege. But we are not that brand of vision impaired. We are not colorblind. Colorblind tells us we all bleed the same blood without seeing the difference between paper cut and hemorrhage, between anomaly and precedent, between innocent until proven guilty and guilty until proven dead. So no. We offer no apology for demanding more worth than the chalk they trace our corpses with, for claiming our deaths as tragedies before we were college-bound because bullets don't ask your GPA for permission to pierce your skin. This is our call to end this open season on the black body. Our flesh is not a bullseye for this broken justice system. We will never be paralyzed because paralysis is a mouth that is too shell-shocked to shout. Paralysis is a pair of legs too tired to stand our ground. Paralysis is a country that tells itself that the best way to move on is by standing still. So instead, we take this chance to stand out, to do more than drown in sorrow, because the wounds we nurse today are the scars our children wear tomorrow.
I'm afraid that my wounds will be inherited by generations after me. Societal scars depressing the womb that carries my future seed. At 20 years old, I already worry that my son or my daughter might be born with hearts playing like organs in Beethoven's symphonies. Their music is floating with the song Too Proud for America. That might even sing I Too Am America, though their hues might not be as light as Langston's, though their views might not conform and sanction the isms that this divided US will use to try to disgrace them. If the hearts of my unborn sing with a song too loud, a melody too proud, their lyrics might mute prematurely like 17-year-old Jordan, a Davis with miles to go before he should have been laid to rest. Their tunes might wed in matrimony with injustice too soon, like McBride, who asked for help only for murder to manifest. So don't veil yourself with post-racial because you're afraid to recognize that ignorance at your convenience is not a bulletproof Band-Aid for my pain. My heart hurts because it beats knowing that racism too often blocks love. But I refuse to be stagnated in your psychological paralysis.
I'm striving to heal, and I walk, clutching black hands, dreaming for this nightmare to be less real.
Wow, so good to see so many young people here tonight in the audience. I know there's a lot of people here of all ages, but it's great to have the young folks here tonight. I've prepared some introductory comments, but it's almost hard to begin because the students were so powerful and moving. And on a real honest, just personal moment, tonight, and witnessing what the students did for us tonight in this performance is one of the real reasons why I'm so blessed and honored to teach at Stanford University with students like this. So give it up. Thank you. Thank you. So we're here tonight with a burning desire to understand what is happening in Ferguson, Missouri in the aftermath of the murder of Michael Brown by police. The students, we are all here to discuss the significance of that movement and to learn how to act in solidarity with that movement. So on behalf of African and African American Studies, the Black Community Service Center, Institute for Diversity in the Arts, the BSU, NAACP, we welcome you to tonight's panel, Ferguson, America's Movement for Racial Justice. I'd like you all to take a brief moment to check out the bios and review them. They are in your seats. As I call up our special guests to have a seat, the panelists will please come up. As they are coming up, the panelists right here will please come up and have a seat. We've put together a special group of guests that we hope will bring some real talk to this critically important discussion. We're in a critical moment. Please have a seat. Thank you. We're in a critical moment. America is in, as they say, its Ferguson moment, right in the heart of Ferguson October. Okay? Speaking as director of AAAS and as someone who's involved in race and ethnic studies, I can say that this moment has shown me and has shown others the real importance and the critical importance and the dire need for race and ethnic studies at universities across the nation and worldwide. This is a moment to be studying the real-life implications of these issues. Over the past few months, over the past few years, nothing has spoken loudly and more clearly than this issue. I will say that as African and African American Studies, we're focused on a 3-year theme of race, policing, and mass incarceration. And that's our 3-year theme because we can't think of anything more necessary and urgent and important and relevant to be discussing right now. So about 2 years ago, for those of you who are joining us, maybe perhaps for your first event, and for those of you who are joining us live, as well as for our panelists, about 2 years ago, we pulled our heads and hearts together for Trayvon Martin on panels and discussions. We did so again with Oscar Grant and Fruitvale Station. You remember the panel with Ryan Coogler, Oscar Grant's mother, Oscar Grant's lawyer, et cetera, and the kind of experience that was. We later brought just last spring Harry Belafonte, the legendary Harry Belafonte, right here in this auditorium. Many of you still remember verbatim some of the words that he taught us that night. He also talked about his work for activism and racial justice in America, and just recently, not even 10 days ago, in collaboration with the law school Shaking the Foundations Conference, we hosted Michelle Alexander, author of the new Jim Crow, and discussed how to end mass incarceration as we know it. And many of you don't know this yet in the audience, but this winter, Dream Hampton will be here teaching for us as an IDA AAAS visiting fellow on in a course entitled From Moments to Movements. Okay, capitalizing on the discussion that we're having right now. And also Angela Davis, the Angela Davis, will be here in the spring teaching a course on the meaning of freedom as well as a AAAS lecture. I'm saying this to you right now. These are gems. Jot them down. Don't forget them. Sign up as soon as registration opens up because this is what we're talking about for the long term, not the short term. Also in the spring, Race, Policing, and Mass Incarceration with Jennifer Eberhard, our very own MacArthur genius. Yes, she will be here teaching, along with Angela Davis and others, workshops on women in prisons, et cetera. So we are doing this and we are going hard. And for our panelists and everyone in the audience, I want people to this is a focus for us and that we're consistently trying to bring up and talk about these issues. I say all of this to say, and I breathe deeply because sadly, we know in our hearts that the killing of Black people by police, as we set up our themes, we ask ourselves what is timely, what is not timely. We know with a deep particular certain kind of sadness that this particular issue has remained and will sadly remain timely. We know that, as Malcolm X's grassroots movement has pointed out, every 28 hours, a Black citizen of the U.S. is murdered by those meant to serve and protect. I will not run down the statistics. I will not run down the names. We are here, and I'll assume that we know them well. I'll assume that we know every 28 hours is out. I'll assume that we know that hashtag Black Lives Matters is real. We also, with the students, have been protesting today and onwards. We also know one thing to frame this discussion and in a way of looking at this. When Michelle Alexander was here last Friday and she spoke on mass incarceration, she did something that was, as she usually does, brilliantly done. She linked slavery with Jim Crow with mass incarceration. And why that was important was she took the contemporary technologies of racial oppression and linked them to racial and social control of the past, things that are supposedly gone and no longer with us. She quoted Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote about the haunting symmetry, and I quote, of a death every 3 or 4 days that links us to an uglier time that many would prefer not to think about, but which reminds us that the devaluation of black life in America is as old as the nation itself and has yet to be confronted. She goes on with a surprising fact that many might not be thinking about, but well into a new century as a family in Ferguson, Missouri buries yet another American teenager killed at the hands of authorities, the rate of police killings of black Americans is nearly the same as the rate of lynchings in the early decades of the 20th century. And that is to be repeated. The rate of police killings of black Americans is nearly the same as the rate of lynchings in the early decades of the 20th century. The world has slowly come to realize that this is America's Ferguson's moment. I say that as someone who was traveling last month through Spain, through France, through South Africa, Switzerland, Germany, and everywhere I went, newspapers picked it up, The Economist picked it up. The numbers are staggering and the world is starting to pay focus. So we are here with a distinguished group to discuss America's Ferguson moment. Ferguson, America's movement for racial justice. I would like to take a brief second just to say that we are happy to have to my right David Banner. You can applaud. You know who he is. Multi-talented artist, producer, actor, a graduate of Southern University. Yeah. We know him as much for his art as for his activism. At least since Katrina, he's made national news in all of his work, and we continue to thank him and honor him for his work on Ferguson. To his right, we have Tef Poe, rapper and agent for social change. Give it up. Born and raised in St. Louis. His powerful imagery and what I like the phrase that he uses is a complicated honesty has earned him a reputation for telling the story of St. Louis. For Tef, he's been out there on a nightly basis, and many of us have followed and are following him on Twitter and social media to get the updates, to get the videos, and to see what things look like on the ground. For that, we can't thank him enough.
Absolutely.
Thank you. On his right, we have Senator Maria Chappelle Nadal, who's a Democrat, represents part of, yeah, go ahead. Represents part of St. Louis County in the Missouri Senate, elected in 2010. She has served on multiple committees and received multiple awards. She was also participated in Ferguson's Peace Fest and has been outspoken with her frustration over what is happening on Ferguson. You've seen her on CNN and in other outlets really talking straight, and so we thank you and welcome you tonight. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, who's one of the leading intellectual voices in the country. He is, yes. He's a distinguished professor of African and African American Studies at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. He is also host of HuffPost Live and BET News, as well as a political contributor to CNN. He's also won numerous awards and is known for his activism across many domains, including race, policing, and mass incarceration. Thank you, Mark, for your work. I'm joined up here by a panel of brilliant students who will introduce themselves as they ask their first question so we can kind of get the program started. But I will just frame the discussion slightly by saying that if each of you could take a brief moment, and this is the kind of evening where we're amongst family, and it's a gathering of people who are earnestly and eagerly trying to understand the situation. So if you could take a brief moment to describe what it means for you to be in America's Ferguson moment. And what I really am going for here is describe the story of when and where you enter what people are calling the Ferguson moment. From the shooting and killing of Michael Brown onwards, what brought you to the scene? Why are you involved in the ways that we know you to be involved? And we can just go right down the panel. We can begin with Mark.
Greetings, everybody. Free the land, as we say where I come from. Free Mumia, free all political prisoners, and free Palestine. Thank you all for being here. Well, on a certain level, I enter the Ferguson moment long before Ferguson happened, just like all of us did. I've been an activist since I was a child, working on the Free Mumia campaign. And I remember in 1985, when the mayor of my city, Philadelphia, dropped a bomb on Osage Avenue, a residential neighborhood, killing members of MOVE, 7 years after the first attack on MOVE in 1978 in Poughton Village in December. And for me, that moment connects to Ferguson because it was another example of how an entire community of people could be rendered disposable in the service of state violence, state interest, state power. So by the time I got to Ferguson 2 days after the shooting, I watched it on TV. That's not true. I saw it on social media. TV hadn't come. I was at CNN and we wasn't talking about it yet. But I saw it on social media and I saw his body lay there for an hour and 2 hours. And I saw people tweeting that they were out there 3 hours, 4 hours. And the image that stuck to me was him laying on the ground as if he didn't belong to anybody. As if he had no family, as if he didn't belong to a community, as if he didn't belong to a democracy, as if he didn't belong to a state, as if he didn't have anyone to protect him or to invest in him or to care for him. Forget the level of innocence or guilt. I'm talking about a body being exposed to the sweltering sun as well as the kind of global gaze of the media, of the internet, of the people in the community here to watch the spectacle of yet another example of state-sanctioned violence. You talk about history, you think about lynchings. Part of the spectacle of the lynching wasn't just the body hanging from the tree, it was the people who had to watch it as an example of what could happen to you. As a piece of state violence was the spectacle of the black body being destroyed, male and female. So for me, when I saw that and saw how disposable he was, then I got there and I was there the night they imposed the curfew and we stood there and I looked at those tanks. And I looked at those guns. And I remember 2 in the morning when they started throwing tear gas at us. And they were saying on CNN that there was no tear gas while we were getting tear gas. And I remember thinking, they think we don't matter. You know what I mean? Then when they made the videotape that Friday, they said, oh, he stole from the store. As if you steal from a store, you can get killed. You don't matter. And so every example of Ferguson, every example of this Ferguson moment to me was reflective of a sensibility that certain people in America do not belong. They are disposable. They are undeserving of democracy, undeserving of state protection, undeserving of due process. And so for me, that's how I entered this conversation. And that's why I'm so committed, as everybody up here is to moving this thing forward so that we don't just find justice for Michael Brown and justice for Ferguson, but we try to change a world that is so shot through with white supremacy, so shot through with obsessions with violence, so shot through with obsessions with capital that we're willing to throw people away in the process.
Notion of disposability.
Disposability, for sure.
I think my Ferguson moment started when I entered into state government shortly after college. And I initially worked for the former lieutenant governor, ran for my first position in 2004 as a state representative, and then in 2010 ran as a state senator. In that entire time, 14 years at this point, I had multiple Ferguson moments. Being put into a box. Being the staffer for boards and commissions for the lieutenant governor, department heads would always second guess me. That's not the person who is supposed to be making that decision. As a state representative and as a senator, oftentimes I would be put into the black box. You're only supposed to talk when we're talking about a black issue. And I'm way much more than being put into that black box. But for 14 years at this point, I have been put into a black box by Democrats and Republicans, whites and blacks. And I've always been sick of it. So when we did get to our real Ferguson moment, I received a phone call from a very good friend of mine, Antonio French. And, you know, for him to call like 14, 15 times is not normal. And I responded to him, and he said, you got to get up here, you got to get up here. And I said, Antonio, I'm, you know, doing stuff in the district. You got to get up here. And I went up there. And what I saw in Canfield was a street of people angry. It was almost sunset when I got there, and people at one point in time had all of their hands up and their cell phones up recording the police officers who came in force, maybe 30, 40 cars and dogs and guns that I don't know the name of any of these guns. And people were so angry and so furious. And then Sunday happened after the shooting. That's when I met Tef Poe. I didn't know who he was, and he didn't know who I was. But we were chanting in the street. And I felt as though I had to be with younger people because their voices had to be heard, and no one was listening to them. And they were angry and they were hurt. And earlier in that day, there were people who were willing to give up their lives, who said, I don't believe that I was going to even make it to 21 years old, so why don't I just give up my life now? Why don't I just give it up right now? As grown men were crying, and I'm holding them back and telling them, I don't want to lose another life. And then that night, there was looting. I was at the police department. We had our own prayer vigil. It was a peaceful one. The news didn't cover that one. What the news covered is the one that was on Canfield. And then Monday came. And I was out protesting at the police department. And then we went to West Florissant, which is what we call Ground Zero. I had my intern. I had a young pastor. And I told them, listen, when you see the police start moving, we got to get out of here. My car was parked at North Winds Estates. When we saw them moving, we ran to the car. And I couldn't get in my car by the time they blocked the street. One way in, one way out. One-way street. And they said, go out the other way. Go out the other way. Go out the other way. There was no other way. Go into the homes. Go into your apartments. But for those of us who parked behind the QT, who couldn't leave and didn't have a home, there was no way out. And that night, we were tear gassed for 3 hours. A state senator was tear gassed by the Missouri Highway Patrol for 3 hours. I could not breathe. I was hyperventilating. I had a senator on my cell phone who was trying to tell me, stay safe. And then there was a helicopter in the sky with lights on, wanting people to get back into their homes. We didn't have a place to go. And we just sat there. And we were trying to comprehend what in the world just happened. And I think the moment hit me the next morning when I was late for a meeting with another senator, and I was 30 minutes late, and I'm never late. And I was in the shower, and I was crying. And I couldn't believe that just happened. For 3 hours, we were fired at and tear gassed. And I knew that if I had not been on that street with about 100 people, 150 people, none of those people would have credibility on what happened on the most vicious day of tear gassing.
It's rough for me to talk about this stuff. I'm not going to even lie to you. talk about it every day of the week, all day, every day now. The police have not stopped harassing us, killing us since the murder of Michael Brown. We buried another brother yesterday. His name's Von Derek Myers. He was shot 6 times in the back. He had a sandwich. They said he had a gun. They tested the gun. The gun didn't have his DNA on it. So obviously somebody planted the gun. He was shot 6 times in the back, and he was shot once in the head at point blank range, according to the autopsy report. And we just buried him yesterday. I couldn't go to his funeral because my uncle was hit by a car crossing the street, and he had his funeral at the same time, simultaneously. And I had to get out here, catch the plane, so I had to figure it out. But it's rough because for a lot of people, this is a joke. And one of the main chants that we chant in the streets of St. Louis is, they think it's a game, they think it's a joke. North County, St. Louis is the new Jackson, Mississippi. People ask me, well, what's the big deal? You know, the big deal is we have culturally accepted being less than citizens. You know, me and my friends grew up in St. Louis saying to each other, if you live in North County after night, I'm not coming to pick you up. If you live in North County, tough luck, sleep at a friend's house tonight because I'm not dropping you off. And that's just how it is. It's for young people, older people. So I grew up in St. Louis, and we have accepted the unfairness that the police dish out to us. You know, they pull us over, we get free cased. If you don't know what free casing is, you're driving in your car, walking down the street. You don't have to drive either. You could be walking, and cops pull over. They want to talk to you. I remember one time I was going to work one morning. I used to live in the Central West End, which is a pretty good neighborhood. Doctors and college students live in that neighborhood. And I'm going out my house, and cops pull up on me, say, hey, what do you know about this murder last night? I say, I don't know nothing about it. He say, get in the car and tell me about it downtown. I spent 3 days in jail for something I had nothing to do with. City jail with people that's going to the feds. Cats got actual murders, actual real crimes on them. I'm sitting in there with them, and I ain't did shit. So that's the reality that we live with in St. Louis. It don't matter if you're a man, it don't matter if you're a woman. We're going through the same exact harsh treatment of the police. We don't even have local control over our police. We might have it now. I think we just got it, but it's not even real local control. It's like a watered down Kool-Aid without sugar version. But so it's a complicated dynamic. You know, our mayor can't even direct the police when they're in the wrongdoing. You know, he doesn't even have that power. There's an ongoing battle between the mayor and the police to establish power. So growing up in the city, I didn't have to enter the Mike Brown moment. I was born in the last state to free the slaves. I was born in it. Missouri was the last state to free the slaves. So the mentality of white people there is drastically different than places that are a little bit more liberal. And that's the culture. I keep saying the word culture because culture is things that you perceive to be normal. That's what you live in. That's how you function. Our culture is segregation in St. Louis. You won't get that on CNN. You won't understand the frustration attached to that by watching MSNBC. So when I'm at home on a Saturday chilling, I was actually planning to promote parties at home and throw concerts and stuff like that. So we had a monthly party, and I was just getting ready for the party that night, loaded up my Instagram, and I see Mike Brown's stepdad. I thought it was his real father at the time, but I see his stepdad holding a sign that says, my unarmed son has been murdered by Ferguson PD. I grew up right outside of Ferguson. The thing that they don't want you to know, that Ferguson is in the heart of St. Louis. For St. Louisans, there is no distinction between St. Louis and Ferguson. It's the same damn place. It's just, you go around the corner and you're in the portion of the city that's known as Ferguson. And it's not that big. It's a small town. It's but that big. You drive a couple streets and you're out of it into the next municipality. But I'm at home that Saturday. I see that they said, you know, I saw the sign that his stepdad held up. So I looked at it. I was like, man, that's crazy. But to be honest with you, that happens all the time in St. Louis. Like I've said, they've killed somebody every week since Mike Brown has died. We don't get the officers' names. We don't know what the actual probable cause was. We just know police killing people, bodies pop up, tough luck. So I see this on my Instagram and I ignore it because, like I said, we grew accustomed to it. I keep going, living my life, and I noticed that more and more information about what's going on starts pouring in. And I also noticed that for some reason, this one had a different energy than other shootings in the city had. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Ferguson was so negligent and disrespectful that they just left his body out there. So you have people watching a body in the street for almost 5 hours. It's actually 4.5 hours. His parents were on the scene. They wouldn't let his dad approach the body. It's a 10-minute video on YouTube of his dad trying to run up to the body and the police pushing him back. They paint the picture as if Darren Wilson was the only officer on the scene. Darren Wilson was not the only officer on the scene. He was the officer that pulled the trigger. We don't know who the other officers were that were on the scene. So when we're protesting, we're possibly dealing with the same racist bastards that were there on the scene and watched this boy die. So people ask us, you know, like, why y'all so angry? What's going on out there? Like, you killed one of us, bruh, and you left him there on public display like it was a goddamn Mona Lisa. And we couldn't do anything about it. And the most frustrating part about it for young people is because if you're not scared of black people, you got off your ass and went to Canfield when that happened. So we went to Canfield, and we couldn't get into the community. It was completely occupied by the police. And I'm talking police from all precincts. I saw police cars from places as far as Wildwood, which is like an hour out of St. Louis. And they brought their cars to there, and it looked like a domestic terrorist attack had happened or something. So we couldn't drive into the community under normal circumstances. When I finally found a way to get in, I'll go to Canfield. I see a lot of people outside. I see a cousin of mine. He told me exactly what happened. He's like, man, they just popped this dude for nothing. And there were some rose petals in the middle of the street that had just been laid at the spot where he was murdered. So I crossed the street, talked to some people I knew. And on my way back across the street, I almost stepped in a puddle of Mike Brown's blood. It was right there on the curb. So my head was spinning, because I never dealt with anything like this in my life. And in St. Louis, I got the habit of being like the politically charged young dude. So I jump up and say some radical stuff, but I can go home after that because there's nothing to do. I could just say, hey, you know, say something crazy and go home. But with this one, they were like, hey, let's see what you got. Yeah, so I was out there. I started to leave and just try to wrap my head around the moment. And as I left, the moment where you said all those cops came, it was insane. You said 30 to some odd cops. I think it might have been like 60. I had never seen that type of police response to anything. And I didn't get it because they were the ones that murdered somebody. So when I saw the cops come into Canfield, so I turned around and walked back down. And the first video that I put on Vine is me yelling at a cop that this is an iPhone, it's not a 9mm, don't shoot me. And I could see the nervousness in the police, in their eyes and their faces, because as a community, we were so charged, and we didn't even have to talk to each other. Everybody was just mobbing. And I remember people just following me back down into Canfield, and something just overcame me, and I just started yelling at the cops. And I don't even know why I started yelling. And people were telling me like, yo, calm down, calm down. I said, I can't calm down, man. And so what they did was they brought the cars back in there. They got the dogs out. And I felt like I was in 1968. They had double-barrel shotguns. They brought the German Shepherds out. They let the German Shepherds pee and urinate on the spot where Mike Brown, his mother, had put the rose petals out. The dogs pissed on that spot. And when they did that, everybody just erupted. A local drug dealer pulled in, blocked his car off, blocked the cops in, and he sat on the hood of his car, and he said, you know what, if you're not from the community, you need to get the hell out of here. So the cops left, but they didn't want to leave. So when they came back, that's when they came back with the militarized weapons and stuff. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, they turned our neighborhood into a third world country. Like, I was with her on several occasions when M16s in our face. You getting off of work, you can't get off of work without being met by machine guns in your face. Grandmothers, they were no respecters of person. Like, people say, well, why y'all didn't do this? Why y'all didn't do that? They threw the Constitution out the window. There were no rules. The rule was, don't be black on the street. If you white, don't be with the black people on the street. We had to have Palestinians teach us survival techniques, and I'm very grateful for that because they're going through the same bullshit we going through. But as an American citizen, you just don't even think that you would even be in that position. I'm in a church with a young Palestinian girl teaching me to make a gas mask. Like, I never thought I'd see myself in that position.
You know, for me, I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. And they asked, when is the Ferguson moment? And excuse me, because I know that we're at Stanford, so I'm supposed to use the King's language. But you tell me, when in the fuck has it not been a Ferguson moment for a black person in America? And I want to tell y'all don't have to clap for me because I don't like the Oprah moment. Because while we clapping, we missing something. Just listen for a second. I had a friend named Andre Jones in Jackson, Mississippi, who got hung by his shoestrings because he dated a white girl in Mississippi. And what's crazy is until all of us, black, white, whatever color you may be, admit that America lies, we will never get to the truth. The one thing Ferguson taught me when I went to Ferguson was that the cops were wrong. And I'm not saying that black folks are not wrong, but we're wrong regardless of whether we right or wrong, so that doesn't really matter because most of the time we have to prove that we're right. But the cops were wrong, y'all. The question that I always ask somebody, if that was a white child, would it have even happened? But if it would have happened, would it have been handled differently? And we all have to admit that is yes. And just by the show of hands, I want to try something. How many black, and ladies, I know y'all go through stuff too, but I'm trying to prove a point here. How many black males in here been harassed by cops for no reason? Raise your hand proud, bro, it's all right. I know you got your homies around you, it's cool. Put your hands down. I'll tell you what's crazy about being a black man. And I'm supposed to be a rapper that got $1 million. The cops to us is another gang. Where is there peace for a black man anywhere? We got to worry about wearing red. We got to worry about wearing blue. We got to worry about the black folks. We got to worry about the white folks. We got to worry about what hood we in, what time we're driving. There is never any rest for us. And the bad and the sad thing about it, and I'm being very honest, and I think the people on this stage will admit it. Like, dude, we're the victims. We built this country for free. Then they put us out with no social therapy, no mental therapy, no physical therapy, and then they charged us taxes. And they say I'm a rapper, I'm supposed to be the pimp. That's pimping. No, I'm very, very serious. And then they turn around and tell us that we're the aggressive ones. Black folks ain't did nothing but been hung from trees and get our ass beat since the day we've been here, and we don't do nothing but love white folks. No, I'm serious.
Right.
But the reason why I think today is so powerful, and the reason why I'm so glad to be at Stanford, you all are the next generation of leaders. Yes. And the truth is, your parents are gonna die. So you will be leaders whether you want to or not. It is up to you to change the future. People were asking me and Tef, why are y'all going to Stanford? Why are y'all? Because those are the people who are going to change the fucking world. I want to talk to those kids. And the only thing that I will ask you, and then we'll move on, is just consider. One of the things I hate is when people say the black experience isn't that bad. I was telling some kids today, that's like me telling a woman, oh, pregnancy ain't that bad. How the hell I know? You not getting your ass kicked. They were tear gassing babies, dude.
Yes.
They were tear gassing babies. Cops were coming out, pulling cats off of the street. No constitutional rights at all. And I'm gonna tell you something that Ferguson did do for me. This was my Ferguson moment, and then I'm gonna sit back, because I'm a little emotional. I found out that laws are only for the poor and uninformed. The police can kill us whenever they feel like it and get away with it. America can go to war and kill innocent people. We are one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. And you mean to tell me we can't find 4 or 5 so-called terrorists and just kill them? We gotta go bomb everything? Are you serious? We're always talking about weapons of mass destruction. Shoot, we got all of the receipts. So in me saying that, the only thing I ask you is to just consider what we say. I'm not telling you to believe, because don't believe anything anyone says, because I might just be emotional and have good game. Research what I say, we live it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Reed. I'm a senior majoring in African and African American Studies with a minor in creative writing. And I would like to direct the first question to Senator Chappelle Nadal. It's been 79 days since Mike was killed. Why has Officer Wilson not been arrested? What policies, if any, are being proposed to prevent violent attacks like Michael Brown's murder in the future? What challenges do you foresee in creating legislation to prevent institutional violence?
So I have to tell you that this has been a total learning experience for a lot of people. And one thing that comes first that many of us did not know, including myself, is that the indictment comes first, and then there's an arrest. So there are a lot of people who are out there who want an immediate arrest, myself included. But there is a process. The problem in all of this is that Mike Brown did not get the opportunity to go through due process. But getting back to answering your question, we have to look at some of our statutes, which we have found, especially Amnesty International, thank goodness they were around, thank goodness. They have revealed some of the issues that we have in our statutes, and we want to change them. I've had many of my colleagues, all Republican, come to Ferguson, rural legislators. What I did not know until the last, 6 weeks, is that there's a problem with harassment in rural white areas as well. Like, who would have thought that? I didn't think that. And so as we are talking amongst each other, we're realizing that this change that has to happen legislatively is not just about Ferguson. It's not just about the St. Louis region. It's not just about Kansas City, which it has a heavy minority constituency there. It is about the entire state and police officers feeling as though they have no God to answer to. What I have seen, and this is not answering your question, I apologize. We have had women who were beaten. Chocolate is one of them. Chocolate was hog-tied. She was unconscious. And then she was kicked when she was unconscious. We have the video. And she's pregnant. Didn't know that. We have other people who were treated literally like animals. Daisha, with Lost Voices, versus Abby, the way that Abby was arrested. Really nice. She was arrested nicer than Daisha was. Daisha was carried by her feet and her arms upside down by police officers under arrest. Totally unnecessary. So the policies that we are looking at, one, a lot of people talk about representative policing. It's way more than that, because let me tell you, Joshua Williams, when he was arrested, he was choke held. A black officer was choking him like this and yanking his neck. A black officer. So yes, we do need some representative policing. However, it is a culture in police departments around the country that are completely disregarding the procedures and rights of people that have been established a long time ago. And here's the other thing, and St. Louis City in some parts do a lot better than Ferguson. Ferguson is the worst of the worst. But every single police officer needs to know their precinct, neighborhoods, blocks, communicate where people feel comfortable in having a conversation. That does actually happen in other places in St. Louis. It does not happen in Ferguson, and it doesn't happen all the time, but there are places where police officers have good relationships with their residents and their constituents. At the federal level, something that Claire McCaskill, our U.S. Senator, proposed is if you are a police department that does not have audio and video technology, you will not be receiving any federal funding, period. I totally agree with that. Yeah. You should not receive anything. And then if you're not an accredited police department, then you need to be dissolved. Here's one of the problems in my Senate district and in St. Louis County. There are 91 municipalities in St. Louis County, which is the largest county of 114 in the state of Missouri. In my Senate district alone, I represent 41 of those municipalities. Almost half of all municipalities I represent. And they are small. You can go down a street just for 1.5 miles and you've just gone through 4 municipalities. One of the problems that we are experiencing is over-ticketing and targeting. So many of these smaller municipalities are actually getting revenue from stopping people. It's a business. You know, instead of taking a test to vote, what they're doing is saying, hey, poor person, we're going to stop you and take more money from you. And then the failure to appear. So there are notices that are supposed to be sent out when you have a ticket and they're not sent out. And so 10 years down the line, not only do you have a warrant, but you have all of these failures to appear. A lot of our protesters have had to deal with that. It's a concern. When you look at the data, and we have analyzed a lot of this data in stops in St. Louis County, what you will find is that African Americans are stopped and arrested more, but guess who has all the drugs and the guns? They're not black. And these are facts. These are facts. And the people who are arrested, black. not white. So the whites who have the drugs and the guns don't get arrested. And when you look at the percentages of African Americans, it's completely lopsided. There are we looked at least 25 municipalities. There were only 2 municipalities that were representative of the community and their residents. There are only 2 out of those. Again, at the state level, we have to re-examine our statutes. There's a colleague of mine who's in the House who's running for Senate right now. He's a Democrat. And he's been the #1 supporter of Darren Wilson. #1 supporter. I don't care if a Republican wins that one. Republicans at this point have more compassion than my own party. The governor, and I'm getting off track, I'm so sorry. The governor, not until this was international news, allowed for 3 nights of tear gas by our state highway patrol, multiple jurisdictions of police departments. And guess who has to agree to the budget for public safety? Next year, they're going to have a problem.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Okonafoy. I'm a PhD student in social psychology. I work with Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt, the genius, on ways of offsetting implicit bias on a large scale psychologically. My question today is for Dr. Hill. As we all know, Dr. Hill has been working with these type of issues well before Ferguson. For instance, since 2006, been working with My Fifth, a nonprofit organization geared towards teaching Black and Latino youth about their rights and how to interact with police. The question I have today is so from a psychological perspective, we like to think of these type of situations as systems with multiple factors involved. And so first, do you think that it is, well, I think we can all agree it's necessary that we know our rights. Do you think it's sufficient to change the differences in sentencing, the differences in stop and frisk, the differences in arrest, to solely work with our populations? And what do you think can be done to work with the police on their accountability and to restrict their levels of power?
Good question. It's one of them PhD questions. Your question presumes, all right, let me back up. I am a prison abolitionist. I come from the tradition that believes that prisons cannot be reformed, that as such, they function in a way that is untenable if we want a true democracy and if we want true freedom and justice for African people. So when people come to me talking about prison reform, while I want prisoners to have food and I want them to have lights and I don't want Ebola in the prison and I'm reluctant to have a discourse about reform because it allows us to sustain the belief that prisons can exist and should exist. I'm transferring that logic to your question, which is how to engage police. The question presumes that there can be a functional role for police in our communities as such. I reject that premise on its face. So I got to start there, all right? However, I'll engage it for the moment. It's hard to, because it feels like it's disingenuous, but I think that policing in our, I can't do it.
Answer how you like.
I don't think that there is a functional and healthy role for police in our community. I believe that they are an occupying force, that they're an extension of state power whose primary function is to protect property and to protect whiteness as property, not to protect us. So that's my worldview. So just know that. I think that there are more healthy ways that we can engage police for survival. But that's about resistance. That's not about accepting at any moment that there can be an ultimately functional and healthy relationship between communities and police in the context of late capitalism. Because that's the backdrop to this, right? As long as we're in a neoliberal moment where the market is the primary arbiter, where it's the ultimate court of appeal, where privatization is better than the public good, where capital dominates, then police will always be there to serve a particular function. So what I think about is what can we as a community do to minimize that role? All right, what we did in Philly was we organized Cop Watch. We watched the police. Watching the police, and even in Ferguson, although they got kind of crazy in Ferguson, but in general, when you got cameras on police, they behave differently. When we're occupying our own corners, there's less need for police. When we respond to dispute in our community, police are less necessary. Now, when we started My Fifth, the purpose of starting My Fifth was so that young people would, and we picked the fifth for a reason, because we could say My Fourth, My Sixth, referring to constitutional amendments. We could have talked about search and seizure, we could talk about, we could talk about a lot of stuff, but we chose our fifth, because part of it was just don't say anything. Because again, I don't trust the relationship between our youth and police. But so I do try to arm people. When a police officer pulls you over, do this. When you get stopped, do this. Contact these people. Part of what we did with Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, which I'm not a member of, but I support in Brooklyn, is also organize these types of programs and these types of trainings. There's a training this Friday on what to do when police pull you over. So for me, it's about equipping people with survival. I see these beautiful t-shirts, survival is political. That's important. We have to survive another day. And the last thing I'll say, because I know we want to make sure we move quick so everybody can get in, is also we have to reimagine what resistance looks like. Even in, my most proud moment in Ferguson, because y'all were so damn fearless, man. It's like they were just talking about, man. Like, we were on the ground. I've been doing this for a long time. When they started throwing the smoke bombs, the first thing these young boys did, I went this way. Because in two of them, I hit the ground when they started throwing shit. The young boys picked up the smoke bomb and threw it back. I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do. So I want us to reimagine what this means. Do we want Hands Up, Don't Shoot to be our moniker? Do we want it to be our shibboleth? Do we want it to be our slogan? I don't want it to be. Hands Up, Don't Shoot don't make sense in a revolutionary context. It just don't. Because when we put our hands up, they shoot us. So I'm just saying, when we talk about engaging with police, let's not lose sight of resistance. And resistance ain't just this. It can be. In a bourgeois liberal tradition, it is civil rights. No. And there's a place for that. Because a whole lot, public accommodation 64, voting rights at 65 happened partly because of King. But again, it happens against the backdrop of Malcolm and other. So my point is not that we can't do that tradition, but let's not fetishize that tradition. Because if you're in Gaza right now, hands up, don't shoot doesn't work. If you're in Yemen, hands up, don't shoot or don't drone, President Obama, doesn't work, right? So we need to think about this in a global context of resistance. And that is how I engage with police if we have to. And I hope that we can imagine the world that is not yet. That is a world without prisons. That is a world without police operating as extensions of state power. That is us imagining, or they said it is easier to imagine the end of the world itself than to imagine the end of capitalism, right? I want us to dream and dare to imagine a world after capitalism, after whiteness, after the prison.
Thank you, brother.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tiane Polfus. I'm a senior majoring in African and African American studies, and I am a resident of St. Louis. So thank you all for your service, and shout out to the other St. Louis people who are in the audience tonight. My question is to Tev Poe. Students here are far removed from the work that you do. At Stanford, we learn how to read, we learn how to be busy, we learn how to code, but we don't learn how to build movements. What tools or skills are you relying on to contribute to the movement? How might you blend the call for activism within the academia? How do you incorporate non-Black allies into this movement? And what kinds of real conversations with said parties were prioritized?
Well, first and foremost, the movement on the ground in St. Louis is really led by a widespread coalition of people. It's a lot, primarily led by young women, to be straight up with you.
Tell us more. Tell us more about that.
Say that.
And it's funny because when we could have the hands up, don't shoot talk, and I actually get offended by, I'm not offended, but I'm a little hesitant to applaud people that are like, when they go, hell yeah, hands up, don't shoot, because I'm with you, I'm living in the moment, I'm going towards the tank. But is the person in the audience truly gonna show up when we on that?
That's real.
Feel me though? Like, you saying you wanna do this, well, let's go do it, because I'm living in it. Get a plane ticket, come to Ferguson with me, and we can get it popping.
For real.
I got plenty of that for you. So, segueing into the actual question. For real, what we're trying to do is reimagine and reshape what a movement is supposed to look like. We don't come outside in slacks and dress shoes. I don't have any shame about using profanity when I'm on a panel that's not at a church.
It's not your daddy's civil rights movement.
Yeah, that was my quote.
Let's say that.
I made a quote. We had a really disruptive moment at the Chaffetz Arena last week with Dr. Cornel West and a bunch of other religious leaders. One of the guys from the NAACP got up to speak, and the young people just turned up. And it turned into like a free-for-all. And
Good.
everybody was up there speaking at some point. And that's really reflective of what we're trying to do. Like, we don't want a situation where there's a definitive figurehead. You know, like, I'm not trying to be the next Martin Luther King. I'm not trying to be the next Malcolm X. Both of them dead, so they didn't do something right. So for us, we're trying to modernize the civil rights movement. We're not trying to recreate it. We're not trying to be it. We're trying to modernize it and address the concerns of all oppressed people and be all inclusive of that and really find ways to relate to each other's struggle. So a lot of times we're in the meetings, like the sisters would get on my head because they'd be like, yo, such and such said something that was hella sexist. You should have stepped up and said something about that. And I'd be like, you're right, I got you next time. Because as a man, it's my job to address that particular ism because I'm a member of the oppressing party upon her, right? So I gotta have her back. And we have these conversations. Like, we're not living in a bubble where we're afraid to have these dialogues with each other, you know what I mean? We don't agree on everything all the time. We get into a lot of arguments. But at the end of the day, we know that when it's time to throw some tear gas back, it's only about 6 of us that's gonna get up and throw it back. So we gotta rely on each other. And we have to have a sort of unprecedented trust in each other that, you know, no matter what, you know, if you hear a rumor on Twitter that somebody said, I said such and such, just come talk to me about it. You know, don't feed into that, just come rap with me. If I said it, I'll tell you I said it. You know, we'll work it out. And I think that's why we've had so much progress in a short period of time because we're not trying to play by the traditional rule book. You know, if you feel something, act upon it. And that's what happened with Mike Brown. We saw a guy dead in the street. Most of us didn't know each other when we started organizing with each other. I'm with a lot of people every day that I did not know, and they've become like my best friends. And I told the main person I'm with, Torian Russell, he started Hands Up United with me, and we're both also members of OBS, the Organization for Black Struggle. I told him the second day that I met him, I said, look, man, we have to have an undying trust in each other. Because if we don't, this is gonna fall apart right in front of our eyes. I said, you know, I'm not gonna agree with everything you do, you're not gonna agree with everything I do, but we both in this for the long haul, and let's stick it out. And we had to have the same conversation with the sisters. And what we do is a very humanistic approach to revolution. We have real emotions, we have real thoughts. We're not trying to be so academic about it, you know? Because to be real with you, when they brought the armored trucks and the M16s to West Florissant, the people being academic about it stayed at the college campus. And they have that privilege to do so. When they leave the college campus, the cops will shoot at them because they don't know the college students. But I think within your question, you posed something that I would like to address, which is those of us that are young black intellectuals, we got to challenge each other to do more than just sit back and think about fucking racism. We all can think about it all damn day. But, you know, like, what are you going to do when you watch the news and another black body falls? So you just going, dang. Like, really, only 10 of us, about 10 people started the Ferguson Rebellion. 2 if I wanted to be technical about it. So it doesn't take that much.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
Hi, I'm Tucker Bryant. I'm a junior studying international relations and urban studies, and my question is for David Banner. So one of the most frustrating things that happens very frequently when you have these conversations about state-funded violence against people of color is the one person who has to say, well, what about black-on-black crime, as if those issues that are important to us lessen the validity of having a conversation about Ferguson or about these issues. But you had a really interesting and really resonant, I think, reaction to that a couple of months ago when you made a statement saying that the reason why some black people will kill other black people is actually very similar psychologically to why a lot of cops will kill black people, which is that both groups have been socialized to see no value in black life. And moving forward, I'd like to ask, what do you think needs to change for us to challenge that mentality in those communities that might be more, sort of akin to that mentality in order to make people believe that they do actually deserve that kind of empowerment?
Wow. Let me tell you why that's so amazing. We just had a very intimate meeting with a small group of young men and women. And I actually asked for that meeting because sometimes this can be intimidating, and I want to have real talk. Because to be honest with you, I don't really do many panels anymore because don't nobody do shit afterwards. We just talk and everybody was emotional for a minute and I'm gonna call you, brother, and you're not calling. You're not calling. But this is the problem that America doesn't want to face. Germany is sorry for what they did because they show it in their schools. They make sure that the history is out there. Texas is trying to outlaw the word slavery in school, period. See, the problem that America doesn't want to face, do you know why there's black-on-black crime? Because we learned it from the slave master. You don't have to, listen, seriously. Slaves wanted to be like the most powerful person that they knew. When we got to this country, they took our culture, they took our language, everything about us. We didn't come over here saying the word nigger. We didn't know the word nigger. I learned that from you. The reason why black folks violently beat each other the way that they do, because we learned that from you. So the difference between black-on-black crime, that's learned behavior. Because again, I told you, we never got any therapy. Like, hey, we've been beat on for 350 years. You think it's gonna stop for less than one generation? Come on. I'm actually on a special school board for Jackson, Mississippi. And I got up and I stood up and I told the school board this. I say, how dare you talk to black kids about reading and arithmetic when this same system passed black codes that made it by law okay for you to kill a black person if he knew how to read. You did that for 350 years and wonder why black people don't want to read all of a sudden. You beat it out of us. So the truth is, that's why I'm so amazed that people act like this is something different. Dude, I'm from Mississippi. I want to write a book. I want to write a book, and if you steal my book, I'm gonna shoot you. I'm not really gonna shoot you. I am. But I want to write a book that says if trees could talk. Because they would tell you stories. And the taller the tree, the wider the story could be. The smaller the tree, the more intimate the story could be. But let me get back to your question, because we digressed for a minute. Cops, listen, cops by law are supposed to be held by a higher standard. One, because they have taken an oath. Two, because they are getting paid by your tax dollars and they're still beating your ass. And because they are trained to do better. Have y'all ever noticed, you saw what happened in Vegas when they tried to take the white guy's farm? And literally he had the sniper rifles and he literally forced the federal government out of his farm. They didn't bring any tanks. They didn't bring the National Guard. When those white kids were literally had AK-47s in Georgia and was robbing those banks and shooting at cops, they didn't bring in the National Guard. They didn't shoot him. When the young white dude bombed in Boston, they didn't bring in the they didn't shoot him 11 times, 6 times. There is a difference. America is not sorry about slavery. What happened is during integration, since it's against the law for me to be outwardly racist, I just join the police force and do the same thing that we've been doing to you from the first place. It has not changed. So until we are honest with each other, and the sad thing about it to all of my white friends in the crowd is that you don't have to admit that that's the case. You can walk out of here today and say that ain't the case, but at the end of the day, I sold it, but I drove a Bentley. And Scott will tell you, when I drive my Bentley, I still get pulled over. You a dope dealer? Well, if you ain't a dope dealer, you a football player. If you ain't a football player, you a rapper. Damn it, I am a rapper. And actually, I'm serious, dog. That hurts me. Like, dude, it's nothing that I can do to make this right. Just say that I'm black, and there's nothing that I can do about it. And I'm gonna tell y'all really quick, and then we'll move on. I want to share something personal, because me and Tef was talking about like how proud we was of this campus. Like, I feel a spirit that I didn't expect to feel here. I really thought we was gonna come, pick up a little paper and, talk revolutionary and go back to the crib. Hey.
Real talk.
Hey, we've been to a lot of colleges that you think are down and they not. We ain't gonna call no names. But I felt something here, so I'm gonna tell y'all the truth about something. When I stepped away from rap music, I had the #1 single in the United States with Chris Brown. It's called Get Like Me. If you wonder why I haven't been rapping, I didn't fall off. I was doing great. Grammys, everything. And I went overseas, and I got an opportunity to see how the rest of the world viewed black men in America. And the sad part isn't that white cops are killing black kids. That has always existed. Let's just be real about that. The thing, and Tef mentioned it earlier, the sad part is now we have bought into it. That we do it to ourselves. We rap about it and we proud. And I looked in the mirror and said, damn, I'm supposed to be smart and I'm doing the same thing. I have bought into this same system. So the truth is, dude, we can pass as many laws, we can do all of these things until we respect ourselves more. And that's what I meant by this statement. White cops kill black kids for the same reason why most black kids kill each other, because they both see no worth. Niggas ain't shit, bitches ain't shit. That's what we grew up hearing all our life. Whether y'all want to admit it to your white friends or not, that's what we heard from our uncles. And guess what? One day it became true because we said it enough. My personal opinion. I appreciate you. I do.
At this point, we have mics in both aisles. We'd like to ask people to come up quickly if you have a question, and we can get the Q&A started. You have mics in both aisles. Please start the line, and we'll go one by one. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Nadu Lawson. I'm a first-year MBA student in the business school. My question was, how do we expand this to a productive conversation with the broader American population? We need to have this conversation beyond people who are already our allies in this room. How do we get them to feel welcome to learn, to care, and to speak up? And how do we fix the disconnect in the conversation so we can actually move forward beyond ourselves?
I just want to add a footnote to that question. There's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately that I wanted to toss out in relation to that was the Pew poll that said something like 80% of Black Americans viewed the situation in Ferguson to be about race or to have racial implications, whereas 37% of white Americans thought the same thing.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, it boggled my mind. So for your question on how do you take this beyond people who are ready to hear the message, those are the stats that float around in my head. If we could respond to that. Thank you.
I'll say something quick, and then I think a couple things. One, the fact that Black people look at this differently than white people is historically consistent. Even in recent history, Black people looked at the O.J. trial differently. We looked at Katrina differently. We looked at Rodney King differently. Every major race, or what I would call race-based incident, is looked at differently along racial lines. As far as what to do, the thing I always tell young people when they organize is never to romanticize the past. Never expect critical mass to do anything. The biggest problem, to me, the biggest problem in the world today is that it's too many people that don't do anything. I mean, really that simple. It's too many people that just don't do anything. The election was stolen in 2000. We didn't do anything, right? New Orleans was stolen from Black folk. We didn't do anything. You know, at some point we have to move and do something, but I don't think we need 80% or 90% or 40% or 20% to do anything. 12% of Black folk marched for civil rights, right? That means 88% of people in the midst of segregated lunch counters, barking dogs, water hoses, being not allowed in school, in the midst of all of that, 88% of us didn't do anything. So what do we expect on Stanford campus? What do we expect in the midst of privilege? And the fact that you all have access to a middle-class experience that Black folk didn't have 50 years ago. Most people didn't have 50 years ago, Black folk. Do something. Go to communities and organize with them. One thing about Ferguson is that everyone got a sense, a window into what it meant to be young and poor and Black and outside, which has been essentially a lethal offense in this country. We have access to that now. So go to those communities and organize. To my white brothers and sisters, go in your communities and organize white people. I think that is so important. White people will come to Black communities and tell us how they want to be a part of our struggle, often how they want to lead our struggle. That's been happening to me for a very long time. And before I was born, before y'all were born. Go to your communities and help deal with these issues around the particular issue at hand, and also the bigger issue of whiteness and white supremacy and white privilege and male privilege, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, cis privilege. I'm going down the list, right? So let's deal with those issues in our own communities. But lastly, again, don't wait for critical mass. Sometime on campus, there's gonna be 5 of y'all in the meeting. And when y'all have a party, 3,000 people come.
That's right.
And when y'all serve food, 4,000 people come. And then you come back the next day for just the organizing and the planning, and 5 people are there again.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Fidel said, I made revolution with 82 men. If I could do it again, I would do it with 15 who had absolute faith. That's what you need.
I just wanted to follow up with you on a couple of different levels. My district is about 33% white, and I will tell you the white community is split. The liberals that I have known and I have loved and who have got me elected time after time again, many of them are disappointing me. They do not understand the struggle of young people. This movement is not just Black in Ferguson, let me be clear. We have had our whiteout nights. There are people politically who were a little bit sketchy on me, but who are there every single day and are white. We had a wonderful Ferguson Fridays on Twitter, I want to say a couple of weeks ago. The conversation was about LGBTQ in the Black community on Twitter. I mean, one of my best allies is a young lady in a wheelchair who is out every single night videotaping. Every night. White, disabled, the best ally we could have ever had. So it's not limited. I want you guys to be clear. It's not just a black thing. We are talking about institutional racism. But the people who are hurt are both white and they're black and they're Asian, they're Vietnamese. They are absolutely everything. And we have been coming together because the injury is upon everyone. Everyone. Every young person. And when it comes to my colleagues who did not show up, I do call them out.
Good.
And I make them feel embarrassed. And they should be embarrassed. How dare you? And Tef was right. How dare you show up in high heels and your suits? Are you kidding me? You're showing up in high heels and your suits just looking on, oh, look at them over there protesting. Oh, look at that over there. They're just real mad over there. Oh, look at that. While I'm defending black men who are crying on the street because they feel as though they were Michael Brown, that they are Michael Brown.
Yes.
And they're looking in their nice suits. The clergy was the same way. For 3 weeks, they had their suits on. Handmade suits looking all good. While people are suffering, while people are sucked in their eyes, while people are sacrificing everything, giving up jobs to protest, giving up their livelihoods. So when it comes to building a coalition, you try to build upon the strengths and the commonalities. Again, you know, I have white rural Republicans who are on my side, for real. And you know what? We have 9 Democrats out of 34 in the Senate. So you know it's going to take Republicans to move something, and it can be done because it has been done. But we have to get some of those issues out of the way and find our commonalities. It can happen. It is possible.
I want to touch on that. So you asked a question that I love to answer. Would you negotiate with a rapist? No, because rape is wrong. Racism is wrong. So I ain't got no words for a person that, for some reason, in their cockamamie mind, does not understand that racism is wrong. We have to grow to the point where we stop humanizing certain aspects of people when they do wrong. Like I was having a conversation with a dude on Twitter earlier, and he was saying, he was like sympathetic towards like some of the police and some of the people that we've affected at different protests, like the Rams games and the Cardinals games. And he was like, you know, people just want to go to the game, man. Y'all going down there disrupting stuff, and, you know, they ain't got nothing to do with that. Well, the problem with that is that he can see the humanity in his uncle that he loves dearly that casually calls black people niggers in the comforts of his own home. But he can't see the humanity in the dead body on the ground that was shot 9 times. So why do I want to converse with him and try to convince him that I'm right and he's wrong? You can go to hell. Bye. Peace. I don't have no words for that. It's not my job to humanize myself to you. That's ridiculous.
Hey y'all, my name is Devin. I'm a freshman living in Ooge, planning on studying economics. Today in the black community, I feel that 2 of our biggest problems is lack of access to a quality education, and also not having anything material, not having any economic power and motivation. And we know who it was that kept us ignorant, and we know who it was that kept us disenfranchised, being white people, that is. And back in the 60s, I guess, when they tried integration, we see how that turned out. 50 years later, we're more segregated than we've ever been. So my question is, on the flip side, not talking about the racists, but how genuine do you think white liberalism is?
The question.
Great question.
My mic got stuck. I couldn't go nowhere. I was trying to come hug you too.
Oh, man. Y'all,
That was a question. That was a question and an answer.
y'all like, this nigga is not gonna work at CNN after tonight.
Hey, Stanford University.
Right. Wow. I mean, so the question of how genuine it is, for what's the telos, right? The telos, the goal, the end of the project, right? It's like people say public schools are broken. It's like, no, they're not broken. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do, right? You know, if white liberalism is in the context of democracy, capitalism, then the very notion of democracy is shaped around being a consumer. It's shaped around being able to consume stuff and buy stuff. And the very notion of what it means to be a citizen is marked against what we consume, what we own, what we have, et cetera. It's a very different notion of democracy than, say, more radical notions of democracy, right? So we often link democracy to liberalism and liberalism to other stuff. So do I think it works and is it genuine? Yes. But to what end? To create a system of have-nots and have-gots. That's and the have-nots are not exclusively black, but they're disproportionately black. Because the American, as they pointed out earlier, the American democratic experiment is itself founded on exploited black labor, right? Which then gets translated into different forms, right? Slavery to Jim and Jane Crow to prison industrial complex, et cetera. And so we see these forms. If you're asking how genuine integration is to what we do, I mean, y'all are the kind of the legatees of immigration, right? I mean, in the 1960s, black folk got access to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton, and Stanford for the first time, and their children now get to come in, and they might even be, some of y'all are second generation, some of y'all are first, but there's a legacy of access that you now have. But the Faustian bargain we made was we are going to allow the black middle class to have access to all this awesome stuff in liberal democracy, but on the backs of the black poor. The black poor will go to prison, we will go to Penn and Harvard and Yale and Stanford. And then, to make it worse, we will develop a culture of shame and a politics of shame that make the black middle class ashamed of the black poor, such that we even render Michael Brown disposable when we found out he stole something. There's a whole bunch of middle-class Negroes that saw Michael Brown on that videotape in the store and said, oh shit, I can't support this, man, he stole something from the store. Because now he didn't mark. It's fine we put a graduation picture on him, it's fine we had Trayvon on a horse. Because in that logic, we could accept him as a suitable victim, someone worthy of our protection and our investment and our, you know what I mean, and our love and our care and our concern. But once he became one of them, the same them that Bill Cosby points to, right, and says, so if you know about that piece of the liberal democratic project, I'm saying it's not only problematic, it's fundamentally flawed and dysfunctional for black folk. So again, we need to imagine a different notion of democracy outside the constraints of liberal democracy, right? So we don't fetishize the vote. We should be voting. Y'all should vote, because voting in Ferguson would have made some differences. But it goes deeper than just voting. But liberal democracy fetishizes voting at the expense of all forms of activism. It fetishizes integration at the expense of all other forms of social engagement. 1931, Elijah Muhammad was left with 6 words by Master Fard Muhammad. Accept your own and be yourself. For me, the notion of accepting one's own and being oneself should be at the center of our political project, whether it's a nationalist project or not. And that means rejecting certain forms of capitalism, rejecting certain forms of engagement in this political project. Because if we do, as I said earlier, and then I'll close, is that if we continue to tinker at this thing, we begin to believe that it could be fixed and that it could work. And I'm saying that it cannot. And there is no evidence if you look globally, that this project works. None. Look in the global south. Look in the Middle East. Look in Latin America. Look in Africa. It doesn't work. And if we see ourselves as connected to those places, then we certainly see it doesn't work.
My name is Josh Alvarez. I'm a local writer, journalist, class of 2012. Glad to be around friends, brothers, sisters, and hopefully I can say comrades. I wonder, and you've all touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if you can dig deeper into it. I can't help but notice that there seems to be a generational divide amongst the activists who are doing good work in Ferguson between the old and the young, the old veterans, if you could say, of the civil rights movement, and now the new and upcoming generation. I wonder if you can touch more on that and sort of expand on that gap that exists.
I would love to talk about that. I first saw it when we first met, that Sunday, day 2. And at 3 o'clock on Sunday, there was a prayer vigil. Lots of clergy came after church, and then there were young people on the street. All day long, they had been on the street, and a new crew of folks came in the afternoon. And then someone from the clergy circle said, "Get out the street, get out the street, get out the street, you're embarrassing us, get out the street." And I'm just looking, I'm here, and I'm like, wait a minute, because I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute, sociology major. When people are upset, they need to exhibit, their frustrations out, and people do it in different ways. And so I don't know if you remember this or not, but I literally, as the ministers started coming over, confronting the young people, I yelled at them and said, go back, get out of their faces now. Get out. Because as people were chanting, the younger generation, they were chanting, and they felt it, they were angry, their anger still exists. They needed to exhibit that in some way to release it so they can get to the next phase. And we had our clergy who was saying, get out the street, you're embarrassing us. And I'm yelling at them, I'm in the middle of it. And from the very beginning, even the event that I didn't go to, I heard about the disconnect. And there's so many people who are from the 60s who are just like reliving their lives. And this is a whole different environment. I mean, the young people that exist, Tef has mentioned this in other circles. We literally have gang members who have put aside their rivalries for this movement.
Yes.
We have felons who have just gotten out this year who are all about this movement, who are willing and have been arrested. And then you have the older generation that's trying to tell you, this is how we did it back then, this is how we're gonna do it right now, you need to listen to me. Hold up, homie. Hold up. Because you're not gonna dictate to us, and this is why I feel this movement, this is why I'm down with the young people, because I'm sick and tired of older people telling me how I'm supposed to act.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm sick and tired of it in the political process. Getting back to your question, the white liberal elite never showed up. Never showed up. My colleagues never showed up. They're at home watching, don't know what to say. They have no clue what to say. The coolest white folks around us are the ones who are anti-death penalty. They're down, they're there every day. We have rabbis who are there every day. We have priests who are getting arrested. Seriously, it's so wonderful to be Catholic. It's so wonderful because they actually understand. But there was a divide, and it took weeks for certain segments of this movement to get that. They had to get out of the suits to stop telling us what to do, because we're not going to listen. If you're in a gang, or you're just young and hard-headed like I am, I'm not going to listen to you.
Word.
These kids aren't going to listen to you. And so what I was saying to folks is you got to get on their level. You have to understand. And so, yeah, they're throwing the F-bombs. Yeah. My new F-bomb is Ferg you, just by the way. Ferg you. But you have to get on their level and understand them. And I think that is really what brought us together. After we started yelling and bickering, get out the way, they got it. And now we listen a little bit.
So I'm like knee deep in the situation with the divide, right? I do think that the media overplays it, because it's really not necessarily a divide of young folks and older folks, but more so a divide of people that are bullshitting and people that are about their life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're in the midst of a wartime moment. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not trying to romanticize it, but when there's 100 police officers walking down the street around the corner from your mother's house with M16s, it might not be time to pray, my dude. It might be time to do something. So where we're at with it is, it's just an action-based moment for young folks. It's not and you see that in the way that it went down. Body hits the ground, everybody talking about it on Twitter, Facebook blowing up, people like, wow, what's going on? Everybody goes to Ferguson. I know friends that were away at school, that dropped school, came home, and didn't go back to school just to be there, because you can't fix it by thinking about it and talking about it. Like, you have to put some boots on the ground and dedicate whatever portion of yourself to the situation that you can. So a lot of the older people, if we're being straight up real about it, they're tied into the system that we're combating. It's not Al Sharpton's job to come there and support me. It's Al Sharpton's job to come there and get that $30 million in St. Louis for the GOTV campaign so we can get some Democrats elected. In the process, they'll create a way for us to go back home, and none of this ever happened. So, and I catch a lot of flack sometimes because I'm just very candid about what this is. And when they shot the brother that we just buried yesterday, Von Derek Myers, on the south side of St. Louis, we got there, different people got there at different times. I got there pretty early. The police eventually cut the tape, and they were getting ready to leave. But for a lot of the older people would have just gotten in the car and been like, all right, they just shot somebody, press conference it up, rub his mama on the back, give her some flowers. That's all we can do. So for us, it was like, nah, y'all gotta go. The police gotta dip. You can't just shoot this brother right here in our neighborhood in front of his mom's. His mom's fainted. They didn't put that on the news. She fainted because her son was over there dead. And she couldn't approach the body. They picking up bullet shells out the ground. All he did was go to the store to get a sandwich. So it pisses me off, and it pisses everybody else off. So, and y'all gonna sit here, the police sit there and laugh in our face and try to style on us like it's a joke. So for us, it's not a game, it's not a joke. If we gotta bust a couple cop car windows and push you out of our community, so be it. Who cares? You killing people.
Anyway, they're killing us anyway. Why not? They're killing us anyway. Why not stand up and fight? See, excuse me.
No, you good. Yeah. But so for us, I think that's really the disconnect. It's not an old people disconnect or a young people disconnect. It's just a who getting up off their ass and doing something disconnect.
Really quick, I just want to say something, because I don't have a problem with Dick Gregory. See, the thing is who elected these black leaders? We didn't. Black folks didn't. And the truth is, think about it. Oscar Grant, all of these people that have died before, has anything been done yet? They have had their opportunity and done nothing. And I'm going to give you a little game, because I happen to be a rapper, so I can tell you the truth. Is that they don't really want to solve the problem. Their money comes in ambulance chasing and calming the black folks down. It is of my opinion that they are sent in by our oppressors. When I said in Mike Brown's funeral, I said, watch, me and Jasiri X was talking about it. They're gonna try to calm it down. What you wanna calm it down for? What you want us to go home for? They never get anything done. They come and tell a beautiful speech, because I can't lie. When I went and Al Sharpton started talking, I knew what was about to happen, but I was like, damn, he good. Am I lying?
It's true, too.
I get the romance of it, but they're not going to do anything. Them boys out there risking their lives. So the thing that I loved about Ferguson the most, them kids sent Jesse Jackson home.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for people like Tef, this the part that they don't tell you, Jesse probably could have got hurt. Because them boys out there, they are not playing. See, the truth is, it's getting to the point where you're gonna have to choose. Either you real with it or don't come out there. You might not come back home. And that's the truth. That is the truth. Man, these leaders, bro, they not leaders, bro. I really think they feds, bro. Yeah. My personal opinion. I really think most of our so-called black leaders work for the federal government. You can tell them I said it.
Some of them are registered informants.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Known.
That's all I'm saying.
Is it this side? This side right here.
My name is Anthony Medina. I'm a graduate student studying education policy. As an undergrad, I did public policy and political science, and so I'm thinking policy right now. But earlier, David Banner talked about white racists joining the police force. So automatically, I think United States versus Paradise, where they try to integrate the police force. And so my question is affirmative. I want to ask about affirmative action, and maybe if one person on the panel wants to talk about it and its effect 40 plus years later down the line on minority communities.
I'll say something real quick. Real quick, did anybody here have a gender-based question? No? You do? Okay, good. Then I'll wait, because I was going to take my panelist license and go there if we didn't. So affirmative action is interesting. My opinion on it is that we need it. Is that we can.
Has it played a positive role in minority communities?
Look how many black people in here.
Because I've heard.
No. I mean, I'm not being smart. The fallacy of affirmative action and its opponents is that somehow unqualified black people are getting spots that white people deserve.
Grant, let me add a premise to my question.
Yeah.
So we are on the Stanford campus. We have a really tall tower called the Hoover, and that's the only reason why I'm asking that question, because that's an issue that's addressed on this campus.
No doubt, and I know you're asking it in good faith, and people at Hoover and other places are trying to dismantle affirmative action, again, based on the premise that deserving white people are being robbed from undeserving black people, right? When you look at the data doesn't bear that out, right? The data bears out that the black folk who are here are qualified and perfectly worthy of being here and do just fine. What the idea is for race to be a factor in inclusion, not the only factor. You're not finding some kid with a 1.5 who never went to class, who got suspended every day, you know what I mean, coming into Stanford. They're qualified. The second thing is that we have to presume that diversity is its own good. Studies show that when groups are homogeneous, it means they're all the same. They tend to arrive at they tend to solve problems more quickly. But when groups are heterogeneous, that is, they are diverse, they tend to come to more dynamic, interesting, and complicated solutions because you bring other stuff to the table. Mm-hmm. Me being black from North Philly matters. That's what Sonia Sotomayor was talking about when she said a wise Latino on the Supreme Court might matter. Right? That diversity matters, right? And not just racial diversity, because everybody on the Supreme Court went to Ivy, damn near, and one went to Stanford, no disrespect. So what would it mean from someone from Howard? They sensitive about that. What would it mean? What would it mean for somebody from Howard to be on there? As when Thurgood Marshall was on the Supreme Court. You get my point? So diversity is its own good. Black folks' inclusion matters. And then there are black folk who are worried that when they come to campus, and this is David's logic, this is why it's so important, right? And I agree with them, that if black people get here from affirmative action, their white counterparts won't respect them. They might not, but at least you hear that they won't think we're smart. As if there was this legacy of white people thinking black people were smart before affirmative action. I'm just saying, if you're gonna think I'm dumb anyway, think I'm dumb from here, not from Pomona. You know what I'm saying? No disrespect to Pomona, I'm just saying, like, I'd rather be, you know what I mean? You think I'm dumb here. So for me, affirmative action continues to be necessary, even as we need to complicate how we think about affirmative action. So that maybe y'all, you know, wealthy, well-to-do kids, children may not need the same spot as a poor white kid from West Virginia. I'm not ignoring that fact. I think class does matter. But race continues to matter. When you control for SES, social economic status, when you control for geography, race still continues to matter in every aspect of American life. And for that reason, affirmative action should be something that we hold on to.
We're going to move quickly. Thank you, Mark, to the next question. Yeah.
Hi, yes, I'm Paul Watkins, a sophomore studying mechanical engineering. First off, I wanted to say thank you all, both panelists, students and professionals, for being here tonight, for talking to us. So I'm from Ferguson. I live on West Florissant for Tef Poe and Tiane, a few seconds before Chambers, next to the Domino's and liquor store, but that's not very important.
Oh, I know that spot.
And I guess, like, definitely in Ferguson and St. Louis as a whole, there's a divide, clearly, and that divide, when it comes to having conversations, there are people who want to have them and some who choose to stay ignorant to the fact. You know that, like, the media has moved on, the protests in St. Louis are still going strong, and yet there are friends who care more about, like, the Cardinals games that they lost, but they care more about that than the actual issue going on right outside of their house. And so I guess a few questions I had, well, not a few questions, because I know this time, something I wondered was, you said that like it's good to have like a few passionate people with you to start a movement, and I definitely agree with that. But for the people who don't care, or at Stanford or they're at home, like, are there ways to teach them if they don't want to be taught? Should we teach them? Do you think it's worth it? If words fail, what actions do you take? Because I know being nonviolent is a lifestyle. It's not easy. It's a very difficult path to take. And then also, like, the protests going on right now, where do you see the movement heading? Does it need a really defined path, or will it just grow into what it needs to become?
Layered, jambalaya style question, but so if you're thinking like a real revolutionary, and you're having a real revolutionary moment, certain things are necessary, and it's necessary for us in Ferguson that are on the ground organizing and protesting to understand the narrative that's coming from the other side and use that to influence our actions and plan what we're going to do. But at the same time, we can't feed into it too much, because when the Republican Party wants to pass a law that suppresses immigration rights, they don't give a damn what I got to say about it. So if we're going to be the counter to that type of stuff, we can't necessarily always give a damn about what they're saying. And that's what creating real revolution and a real movement is putting yourself in a position that's not the most convenient. It's not the easiest to digest. I deal with all types of stuff, and all of the young leaders do. We deal with all types of stuff. People assuming that I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. People looking at certain people because they're becoming more notarized and thinking that they're just in it for the shine. But at the same time, like, what's glamorous about ruining your life? Because that's, in a sense, what I'm doing. And that's, in a sense, what you have to do if you're really serious about moving the needle a little bit. Because that's what's going to come from it. It's going to be people who don't understand. There's going to be people who do understand, but there's going to be a small core group of people. And it's really hard. It's something where you just got to have ways to find self-care for yourself. And overall, you just really have to grow to the point where you believe that without a shadow of a doubt, what you're doing is right. And I think a lot of us really believe that. Like, I wish I could have brought some of my friends out here with me, because y'all would have got to see young people the same age as y'all that are completely politicized, that have completely decided to put everything on the line for a slim possibility, a slim shot in the dark at changing the world. We get followed by the police. My phone is under surveillance. My emails have been hacked. My friends that have nothing to do with protesting are pulled over and arrested and asked to snitch on me. They come back and tell me this, which tells me that other protesters have been arrested and asked to snitch but didn't come back to us and say that. So, and the crazy part is, in 79 days, not one police officer has been touched, right? Not one police officer has been murdered by us. We deal with constant surveillance, constant infringing of our rights, and the real answer to your question is, in America, we love this thing called casual revolution. And Obama marketed it and won off of it to a degree that nobody in history has. Casual revolution. You can change the world through me because I'm talking about change and hope, so you ain't got to do shit. You can donate $5 to my campaign from the comfort of your bed while watching Grey's Anatomy, and that's your way of changing the world. So, I know racism is wrong. I know my homeboy is wrong for calling that girl a bitch, but I ain't gonna say shit. I know it's wrong. That's good enough. So I think what this represents for us is a moment where we're like, you know what? And I keep saying it. The mission statement of Ferguson is stop bullshitting. You know, do something. And it's to the point now, like in St. Louis, where like we have a protest culture almost, where we don't go to the club on Saturday no more. I'm gonna meet y'all at the Ferguson PD. Let's go to the ballpark game and shut the street down. You know, like, and once again, that's just what type of moment we're living in. It's a moment where everybody's being real with each other, we're communicating, and we're just trying to do something. We don't even have a clear outline of what we're trying to do, to be real. When you said, like, what's the eventual goal? I can't fix 400 years of oppression in 79 days. I can't draw a master plan up for that in 79 days. What I can do is disrupt this system and make them hear us, and then come up with the master plan.
Thanks.
I want to do something right now, which is take both of these next questions as hopefully the last question together, because we're running a little bit short on time. So let's take this question and that question together.
Okay, so my name is Antoinette Myers. I am a first-generation graduate student here at Stanford, so I'm representing first-gen folks. What's up? And so my question is really quick. It's gender-based and also solidarity-based. I'm just asking for examples, because I've heard a Black feminist perspective coming from y'all up here. So Tef and Dr. Hill, y'all have been really speaking on the sexism, the presence of sexism in movements, right? And so how have you seen sort of Black men and the fight for their lives also privileged and like stand up for the lives of Black women? And also, how have you seen, because like we're talking about allyship and we're relegating it to the space of whiteness, and I want to pause that for a second and talk about other people of color. And so how have you seen other folks of color sort of unpack their consciousness and be activated by Black activism, specifically because there's a way in which, right, people of color have to participate in anti-Black racism in order to assimilate. And so I'm wondering how you saw that be unpacked and challenged during your solidarity.
In Ferguson or period?
Ferguson would be helpful. But
And we got the next question in tandem. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is similar regarding solidarity. I was just curious to know what your thoughts and feelings were concerning the solidarity of the Palestinian people with the people in Ferguson, and ways in which we can continue to kind of foster transnational solidarity, and how that is so I think important to any movement, to all movements. And so I kind of wanted to hear you guys speak on that.
So there is a young man by the name of Umar Lee who protested at my house. There are a couple of statements I made pro-Israel, and he was really upset. Now we are totally aligned. We have put all of our disagreements aside and made this movement our focus. So when we started with the Ferguson October, there was a huge group of Palestinians who have come out in solidarity supporting us. Like, they totally understand. When Tef was talking about how we were supposed to protect ourselves, it was the Gazans who were helping us out. Seriously. We didn't even have gas masks at that time. So it has been a movement of diversity. In answer to your question, there was a young lady who was called a dyke in the protests. Yeah. And the person who called her that was taken care of by other protesters.
I think we want to make sure that the sister got heard as well. Can you just throw your question into the mix, and we'll make sure we have.
I just have
Thank
been
you, Dave, for
pleased to hear the freedom with which many of the people spoke eloquently. As an American and as an ex-New Yorker, I was disappointed not to hear anyone mention the Southern Poverty Law Center's educational program for children. I happen to be a pediatrician. I believe strongly that we do have to reach across ignorance, and diversity matters. And it starts young, and it's not an easy thing sometimes to reach across the aisle.
I'd like to answer that because it will get to two questions that you guys answered, and this subject has not been addressed by the panel. In Washington State, there was a killing recently, a student who killed others. undoubtedly you know that all of those students are going to have counselors. The young people in Ferguson don't have counselors. They have guns faced at them, shooting at them, and no counselors. So yeah, we do need to address the needs of young people. My community, my constituents, my young people have PTSD, and it has not been addressed.
Yeah.
It has not been addressed whatsoever. And while you look at other communities where you immediately have doctors and social workers and psychologists, in Ferguson, Missouri, you have a commission that's established. A commission. There are people who I talk to every single day who are angered and who do not know how to demonstrate this anger. And so everyday business is more difficult for them because they have PTSD. When you are identified as a young black man, when you are identified as someone who can be trampled over, when you are identified as a person who's easy to arrest time and time again and lose your job, come from a broken family. By the way, Michael Brown attended a school that was unaccredited. And he actually made it. He actually made it. People don't talk about Michael Brown going to an unaccredited school. Education, in my belief, I also sit on my local school board, is the foundation of everything. And our governor, many people in my party have disregarded the needs of poor black children. And if you look at how these young people have been impacted by the death of Michael Brown, looking at a body for 4.5 hours on the ground, and their emotional needs were not addressed. When you look at Columbine, you had social workers, you had psychologists. In Ferguson, Missouri, there are people who are hungry for a hug and understanding, to know that their feelings can be validated. It is okay to be angry. But there is no one who is out there to address the needs of these young people who are hurting so bad. And so, in answer to your question, what am I looking for as a legislator? These emotional needs must be addressed. What is happening right now is criminal. And to sum up, is affirmative action working? Not in the state of Missouri. It's not working. It has never worked. What the state of Missouri does is say, we have our token Negro. We have our token, so we've done our job. But nothing substantive is happening. In the state of Missouri, when it comes to employment, state workers are discriminated against decades at a time, decades. They are not given any kind of advancement whatsoever. And so, yes, we're backwards in the state of Missouri, and it sucks. It really sucks. But what we have to address are the emotional needs of these young people. And it's not just young, they're generations of people who have been attacked. Yeah. Generations, grandmothers, grandfathers, who have been attacked, and we are not addressing those needs. And so before we recover, we have to start with baseline number one. How do you exhibit these feelings? How do you address them? Do you just give up your life, like so many of my young people wanted to do? Or do you give them an avenue to strengthen themselves and to be productive in a movement? Because this is a movement. The movement is not going to change. And as has been mentioned before, you can make the decision or determination to stay at home and watch TV from the comforts of your home, have your drink, have your cigar, whatever. Or you can be out there and you can communicate the necessity for people to have their needs met. And that is not happening right now. And it's grossly sad at this point that there are people who are suffering and don't know how to handle the anger that they have.
I think what we have to do is reframe, because I agree with everything you just said, but that requires us to reorient ourselves and reframe the conversation. So, I mean, the reason people are complaining about Ebola, we don't have a Surgeon General. Why don't we have a Surgeon General? Because Republicans blocked the Surgeon General. Why did they block the Surgeon General? Because he wanted to frame gun violence as a public health issue. Violence in general is a public health issue. What you're talking about is trauma, untreated trauma. Black folk in America, since 1619, have been dealing with untreated trauma from the violence of white supremacy, from the violence of slavery, from the violence of state-sanctioned attacks on our humanity. And so we have to reimagine that. We have to shift the conversation as intellectuals, as journalists, as writers. What does it mean to be black? Du Bois talked about in Souls of Black Folk, how does it feel to be a problem? That's an important question to ask, but it's equally important to ask, what does it mean to be a purveyor of the problem? Driving while black is an interesting phenomenon. But what we should be asking is not what does it mean to drive while black, but what does it mean to patrol while racist? Because that takes the focus away from us who are trying to just go home or go to Domino's Pizza or get a sandwich or live and then ask the fundamental question about what it means to be carrying this stuff. And it ain't just white folk. We didn't fight to integrate police departments so we could get beat by black cops. So we have to think about this again against the broader backdrop of white supremacy. Real quick, I'm gonna be fast. I know we gotta go and I got a plane too. But I wanna make sure we answer those questions. Solidarity is important. We have to forge bonds and see the interconnectedness of our struggles. We have to see the interconnectedness of our struggle. There is a connection between the war on drones and the war on drugs. There's a connection. There's a connection between food justice, food insecurity, and this crumbling economy in the labor market. There's a connection between everything that's happening around the globe and everything that's happening here. We have to forge those connections because what it means, and Cornell talked about this a long time ago, the experience of being a nigga in America, he talked about, right? Unsafe, unprotected, hated, and subject to random violence. It's something that America got access to after 9/11. And then we kind of forgot about it again. But now, post-Ferguson, we have to understand what it means to be vulnerable in public space is something that we understand in a whole new way in Ferguson, what it means to be occupied by state violence. But if you are in Gaza, you have been occupied for a very long time. If you're on the border, you've been occupied for a very long time. We can go down a list of places that have been occupied by state power and by imperialist power. We're just beginning to feel it at home now, and so what we have to do is forge those connections. Powerful story you talked about. People figuring out how to deal with tear gas, how to make a gas mask from people suffering from this in Gaza. That's a reminder of the interconnectedness of our struggle. We got to connect, and then we have to connect across difference. I've been an anti-prison activist for a very long time. It's how I stumbled into the case of CeCe McDonald in Minnesota, a black trans woman who ended up going to jail for defending herself, and literally her survival was seen as an act of resistance to the state. They put her in a men's prison, black trans woman in a men's prison. To me, that's cruel and unusual punishment. That's torture. So for me, I suddenly connected with the trans movement, which I knew nothing about at the time, because I was doing anti-prison work. It made for a good coalition there, but there's a broader conversation we need to have. Too often the conversation about state violence is about being black and male and outside. Because it's hard as hell to be black and male and outside. From Emmett Till to Trayvon to Jordan Davis, we can go down the list, right? But it's just as hard to be black and female and outside. It's just as hard. And even when you're not getting killed, even black folk don't think black women belong outside. If you see a woman on the corner, she must be buying drugs, she must be selling drugs, she must be tricking, right? Black women literally are not allowed in public spaces. They navigate public spaces subject to street harassment. From the moment you're 10 years old, my daughter is going to be 11 in February, and I'm already scared about what she's going to have to deal with and the way we normalize that kind of practice of discursive violence against her, which sometimes turns into physical violence. The sister got hollered at 2 weeks ago. Remember, and she said something back to dude, and dude killed her. It was, check the news, I can't remember her name, but it was in the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? So again, women aren't safe in public. And if you're trans, you're not allowed in public. You're not even supposed to exist. So for me, we have to connect across difference, not just because it's politics, not just because it makes good political sense, it's also because it makes ethical sense. It makes moral sense from here to Gaza and back. Dr. King said, If dogs bite us in Birmingham, we bleed everywhere. We gotta have that sensibility here. And finally, family, I just wanna tell y'all I love y'all. And I'm so proud of the work y'all are doing. Y'all are way more courageous than my generation was. Y'all are more well-equipped. Y'all are much more powerful. Y'all are much more ready for the struggle than I ever anticipated. Frantz Fanon said every generation at a relative obscurity must determine its mission. It is then up to them to either fulfill it or to betray it. You've heard what your mission is. You see what your mission is. This is your mission. The only question is if y'all gonna fulfill it or betray it. I know what y'all gonna do. I just can't wait to see what it looks like. So let me know how I can support you and be there, not just on the stage, but when we leave here on the ground.
So we've thanked them with this rounding applause. But one thing that I want to end tonight on, there was something that Tiane said in her question about what you were being taught at Stanford, taught to read, taught to analyze, taught to this, but not how to build a movement. And I'm going to push back on you because I've seen you spend countless hours in the Black House strategizing, okay? I've seen the students in this audience, and I understand the legacy of activism that exists in this community and communities of color at Stanford University. So I say to you, to all of you, you have been taught how to build a movement. It comes in different forms. It's not always the same. It comes in different forms. I want to thank each and every panelist. David Banner, my Southerner, who's been wanting to bring him for 8 years, and he brought the funk. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, as you are thinking about building your movement, you are learning through taking Professor Carson, Professor Aleem. You are learning through strategizing in your student organizations. Yes. You're learning every day, every moment, walking every step. With that said, thank you to Institute for the Diversity in the Arts, African American Studies, Black Student Union, NAACP, BCSC, for bringing this amazing night, these amazing speakers. Thank you so much.